All right. Hey guys, it's me. I'm back with another video. Um, this is not going to be a reaction. It's more like me talking about the episode. So if you haven't watched the most recent episode of gozyuger, um, please go on the shy nya like NYAA dot SI. I might just put it in the description of the video so you guys can go there and get and download stuff. It will take you would need qubit porn, so get that before you go download stuff. But um I wanted to talk about it because it just came out today, or at least 2 days ago. So actually, yeah, a day ago. So um this episode adds those polars to the meds if you don't know, of course. Of course, this episode, or at least this talk along, is gonna have spoilers. Well, it just goes on in the background, because what I'm going to be doing. Because uh, Toei hates us. Even though we like your shit, Toei, please. I know you guys don't want us to have money, but like we just want to react to your stuff because it's really cool. Anyway, um, my issue with this episode is I just have a bunch of issues with this episode, and I'll get out what I really enjoy about this episode. I do like how most of the intro here, as you're seeing on screen, is like a one almost one-to-one recreation of like the first episode. I do really like that. This is a really good introduction toward our Sis Ranger. This guy, God, why am I already fucking blanking on this name? But I guess you'll say it later. But anyway, I do like this introduction. It kind of goes into what we kind of goes into the mystery of what happened between 15 and now. Kind of wish they went into that more instead of just like it being a normal episode. But they do. There are a lot of stakes in this episode. But let's get into more. I like the OP for this episode, specifically for this episode. They did say, or at least some people in the Toku space did say that Winter Goes User is not going to be changed at all. I hope it's just the OP for this episode is just his theme. I think that would just be funny. Again, I do like how the OP just talks about him and that's it, not the other Goes Users. I think that's very funny of an idea. Mashiro, yeah, that's his name. Sorry. How could I forget? He's so important. um, well, I do enjoy his design. I love Gozyuger's design, or at least Polar's design, and even his design for for a thing. I like how Barakuma is just a fucking tats man. But like I said, there are good stuff about this episode. I like the finishers. I do like the Zord battle a lot. It was kind of fun. Um, a lot of this episode is really good, but I do have my issues with this episode. I kind of wish this episode explained more of what happened last episode. They do it a little bit with Tegasword being like, oh, like the ritual must have went wrong because of the them not having all the Sentai rings. So it's kind of this episode is kind of a consequence a little bit to the evil people and how their plan didn't work in the end. And so as as we go along, I don't know how I feel about this episode because like it's just like a lot of things happen in this episode. I feel like my issue with this episode is that it feels like we're really rushing through the script to get Polar into the plot now. Which like it's not that there are a lot of characters in this season so far, but it's kind of felt like we're kind of rushing through his storyline without any, or at least giving us backstory of who he is. or I guess we do a little bit, but not too much backstory. Maybe in a different episode, they're going to go into more backstory as to why he's doing the things that he's doing. But this episode doesn't really do much to really make me care about what's going on in the story because they don't really explain anything. My issue with this episode is just like they don't explain what happened last episode, and last episode was very important. I'll pause this for now. Sorry, I'll pause this for now because it's actually bothering me a little bit. Sorry that you guys can't watch it. You guys can watch it on the side. Fuck you. Anyway, um, no, fuck you. Anyway, my issue with this episode is just that like it goes. It feels like a Toei writer or at least a Toei person was like, here are the bullet points for this episode. Please get them done. Uh, daughter and Noe, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. And that's kind of what this episode feels like. It kind of feels like we're going through the motions instead of explaining and doing it later. We'll do it later. Like he gets his Zord this episode. He gets we have to see Polar. Of course, we had to get the introduction. We had to get Polar. We had to we had to get his Zord. Good A Burn. I think that's kind of really funny, but I'll talk about Good A Burn in a second. We had to get a team finisher with all those the gozyugers somehow, and that kind of criteria I don't really like. It kind of it makes the episode feel very cluttered in a way where it's just like we're not going through the motions naturally. It's more just get it out now and hope people like it. And I don't really like that a lot. It really makes the story feel weak when it shouldn't be. It like of course it's an in quotes a Noe project. So um of course it's gonna be insane. But at least with something like Dawn Brothers, um, the introduction to Jiro makes sense because at the time, right, like fucking Dawn was Hard was out of commission for like most of that part of the show. So Jiro coming into the picture makes sense, and his Zord being later also makes sense. So it just kind of feels like this episode has a criteria that it needs to hit bullet points in order to make the episode good. And I don't like that. I don't really like that. I kind of wish it took an episode for Good Day Burn to kind of be on his side, and maybe we had a Zord battle with Honoru and Fire Candle again. I would have enjoyed it. Uh, uh and like the Gazusers come back for no reason when like it's not explained how they get their powers back at all. They're just kind of like, how were we different? And that's it. Like it really pisses me off because it's like, what? Like, didn't we saw you all of you be different for a while, and like you you guys are just suddenly okay now without any like consequences, like nothing. We're just back to status quo now, and it just kind of feels like it's just we need to get back to status quo quick, or no one's gonna like our show. And that's my issue. Is that like we just need to get back to status quo, and that's not how you do an episode. It's how you make an episode fucking bad. Like I said, with the introduction of someone like Jiro, right? Again, there was a reason for him to be in the story, and I'm not saying that like Polar doesn't have a reason to be in the story. He has a reason to be in the story, right? This is now the second iteration of the world, so that's why he's here. He's here to make sure all like the ghost users are in line. But I kind of wish this episode kind of revolved around Hotaru and how the world has changed a lot. Maybe that was the original idea, but then they're like, we have to have the Sith Ranger next episode or we're fucked, you know? It feels like it should have been an episode later, or maybe like, maybe this episode would go into the idea of a new world, maybe somehow in a different way. Honoru gets his memories back, so he goes back and sees the gozyugers the way they are. Um, of course, they have the battle, and of course, the girl is like, "Where's the prince?" I don't know where he is. Maybe at the end of the episode, you can give a reveal for um Goes you polar, and then he comes in the next episode, you know. Or maybe they just thought it would take too much time. I don't know per se. I just like I said, I kind of feel like this episode just has bullet points that it has to do in order for it to be an episode. And I don't like that. Like I said, I just kind of wish this episode was about Honoru and how he could help the Ghost users and how we can go back to a sort of status quo. But it's just they kind of gloss over it without anything happening. And like again, it's why I really like something like I know I comparing this a lot to Dawn Brothers, but like Dawn Brothers does nonsensical writing good because it doesn't care that you don't understand what's going on. You can make your own assumptions in your mind of what's happening, or at least in later in the show, they tell you, hey, this is why this happened. At least at least with something like Dumbledore, it's so insane that you don't need to understand what's going on. The show revels in its insanity, and that's uh, why it's so peak. With something like Gozuger, you can't do a sort of grounded world and suddenly be like, "Oh, since Razor's here, all this stuff happened. Get used to it." And it's like, what? Why are we back to status quo now? Why are the Gozuchers suddenly fine for no reason? Why is Pole here? And I do like his connection to Sword of him being the savior of the world. That does make sense. I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine. I don't care. I liked a lot of the stuff with him. Again, I kinda wish the Good A Burn stuff kinda happened in this episode. Maybe it took an episode for him to be like, "I'm not ready to accept you just yet. Maybe I'll think about it," and then he comes to him. But, again, it just kinda feels like we're doing bullet points without doing anything to change anything up. So, I don't know, that's why I just really this episode really just got under my skin. I had to talk about it because 'cause I'm like, I don't know if any other Toku fan has realized this at all. It just kinda feels like this episode is doing bullet points, like I said, and, doing nothing with those bullet points and just kind of being like, "Yeah, we did those." On to next episode, it doesn't get me excited for the next episode, it just kinda gets me like, "Why? What are we doing? Please explain next episode so I understand what the fuck is going on, because there's no way that you don't explain this shit." And it's just like, I hope next episode they explain it. If they don't, I'm gonna get really pissed because I don't think that you should continue the story without explaining what happened last episode, because there's no way that they should have gotten A, their powers back, and B, had their memories restored as well. Like, it just kind of feels like we're just trying to go quickly back to status quo so we can get to the warrior world and war and all this other stuff in the story. Maybe they just didn't feel like wasting an episode on something that felt very random, but to me, it just kind of feels important. So I don't know. That's kind of it for this episode. I'm sorry for bragging or at least going on very long with this. Again, this episode just kind of very like messed with me. I don't know. Hopefully next episode is a lot better. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.